So good morning to everyone, and welcome to our second Pediatric Innovation Training Capsule. Today we will talk about the first-hand experience of innovative pediatric startups with two impressive European startups that we have today, Gate2Brain from Spain and Tully from Romania. Before to jump into the topic, I would like to introduce you shortly to the i4Kids Europe capsule. So the session will last 45 minutes and it will be recorded. And please have your microphone muted during the presentation. And we will have a space for Q&A at the end of the call of 15 minutes, so to have some interaction. So don't hesitate to use the raise hand option to ask question at the end or the chat. Just a brief introduction of what is i4Kids Europe. So it comes from a context where health innovation still tends to focus on elderly people, and approach and devices are not adapted to children. Additionally, the problem is the fragmentation of the ecosystem, which arises in a need for a European Pediatric Innovation Network. And that's where i4Kids Europe came into play with the Horizon Europe project that started last year. It enlarged the current i4Kids initiative from San John de Deo and aims at create synergies and reduce difference between strong and emerging innovators ecosystem, as well as strengthen the innovation competitiveness of the European pediatric sector. To do so, we had our first Pediatric Innovation Day in Warsaw in October at European level, which has been a success. We will also disseminate the report on needs analysis. And if you want to participate to it, the questionnaire is still open. So we will send the link into the chat. If you didn't, please don't hesitate to participate. And finally, we have this 12 pediatric innovation training capsule, and that's why we are here today. So that being said, let's deep dive into today's topic. So we are really glad to count with the presence of two CEOs from two exciting startups. So we have Meritxell Teixedo, CEO and CSO of Gate2Brain, a Spanish biotech startup and recent winner of the Wildcat 2003 finals. And we have Marius Rus, CEO of Tully, a Romanian medtech startup and part of the advisory board of our i4Kids Europe network. So they will share with us their real life experience and insights from a European startup, sharing barriers and opportunity encountered in their entrepreneurial journey. So Marius, if you would like to start.
Sure. So hi guys, let me just share my screen. I have a couple of slides prepared. I cannot share my screen. Charlotte, can you please enable my... you have to stop sharing in order to be able to share my screen. Okay. Okay. So hi guys. My name is Marius, and I'm CEO, a co-founder at Tully, and we have been developing an AI-based wearable for emotion management. Okay, so basically, what we're doing is helping children with diagnosed with ADHD understand and manage their feelings, and it starts from just for a quick explanation of what happens there. You're talking about not only ADHD. ADHD is the start that where we started to look into things, but you have a bunch of aspects coming around, a lot of conditions that fall underneath sensory integration disorders, ADHD being one of those, where the level of recognition and control of emotions is not as it would be, let's say, expected from these children by the society. So they go through very frequent bouts of impulsivity, of emotional meltdowns. They have focus issues, and these translate in time into a lot of issues at the teenage level, from substance abuse to even dropping out of schools. They lead to important aspects in adult life and compound to other mental health issues and to a poor quality of life. And our our journey into this has been quite let's say particular, because I'm not coming from the healthcare space. I'm a finance and strategy guy, and everything started basically, the engine underneath all of this is my co-founder and my wife Adina, and it started with her. She's also an economist as a basic training. It started in 2011, 2013 when she, by basically accident, started to work as a special education counselor in a couple of schools in San Francisco Bay Area, working with children with special education needs, so with children with ADHD, children with autism, helping them get a grip on their emotions. And that basically turned into a secondary career for her. Once we returned to Europe, she went to the Faculty of Psychology. She did a master in psychology, and the thesis was the possibility of developing a wearable that realizes an intervention exactly when it's needed, even though a person that could do that and still can do that much better and much more accurate than a wearable might not be, or most of the time is not available. So the idea came after this period of several years in which it was a direct involvement in the space, and we said let's look into whether or not we can build up something that serves the same purpose, that comes up as a, let's say, an external observer and helps children navigate the day-to-day challenges that are coming from having a sensory integration disorder. And when I was preparing this presentation, I split everything into several periods, because everything as in what we did and also the challenges and the opportunities that we had on all of those periods were completely different. So once we had the idea in 2016, we went through the company formation. We started to build up the team, the first exploration, created started to do the research, but on a let's say just academic article based level, and came up with a proof of concept, and that happened in the first couple of years. Then we had move forward. We got some funding. We had the first contact with EIT. We started to get grants. We started to develop the first prototypes and to further improve, test and fine tune our product. We ended up with a complete commercial prototype at the kind of like mid 2022. We managed to go through a crowdfunding launch and put it on the market as a consumer electronics, so not a medical device yet at this moment. And what happens next is gonna be actually the part of the business. So we already started to ship. We completed the production version last year, and this year we started to ship the first orders. We are looking at a full commercial launch, and then all the complex and lengthy and costly way that goes towards medical device certification. So going to clinical trials, going to certification, and then going towards the hospitals and clinics as a healthcare, as a med tech product. And the challenges were also very different along the way. So in the first part, it was finding our internal resources. When we started in 2016, 2017, there was no idea level funding available in Romania. At this moment, there are a lot of programs that support putting together and going from an idea to a very early prototype. And it took a little bit of time. Also, for us, the biggest challenge at that point was creating and finding the right team, because we are as our journey was particular. Also, our situation is particular. We were at the beginning, there's a couple of co-founders not specialized in tech, and with a focus on psychology and on strategy. So we had to add people that were able to actually build what we wanted to happen, and that took time. And then we had the first when we kind of started to have the things rolling in funding, creating the contact, creating the connections with the environment. Again, that was quite lengthy, and at that point, basically, I would say that in 2019, 2021, one of the biggest challenge was the length of time that took us to go to the funding process, start building up trust with the psychologists that we needed to work with, start building up trust with the parents of children. We started to have testing and trials, even though they were not at I don't know, clinical trial level. Also, we had as a very significant challenge the pandemic, because it stopped us or delayed us quite a lot. We were not able to do the product development and the testing that we wanted, because it had to happen at least at the beginning in direct contact with the users, with the children that were diagnosed with ADHD and they were under counseling, under therapy. And then once we passed that point, everything revolves around the external resources. So once we have the more final prototypes, it was a question of access at the right cost to components, the fact that we developed a hardware device, so it costs a lot, it takes a lot to go to iteration to solve issues. Again, building up further trust from users that are going to be buying up our product and using it, and it's a lot around the funding. So everything in this period, that at least up to this moment, is around, okay, can we find sufficient money in order to push it further along, because it costs a lot to bring something at the right level of complexity and of feasibility to put it on the market. And the lessons that we have learned along the way are that basically everything that's important, or that's what's most important, because some of this stuff kind of overlaps, changes as you develop. As I said, for us, the biggest challenge in the first couple of years of our existence was finding the right team. Right team meaning people that had the sufficient expertise and experience, and they were sufficiently dedicated to be there and to work on a project that was looking at gonna be some years until we actually see something, not until it actually gets to turn back. Then a lot rise on having the support, having the network, and here I'm very happy to be part of 5-4-Kids because it is an initiative that goes also towards this strengthening the environment, which is extremely important. Just as you start, okay, you have an idea, you have a team, you have some kind of rough proof of concept, but you have to go further. And once you get to that point, funding and money really matters. And we were lucky to be able to raise a round of angel. We were lucky to to be supported in both by IT Health and by other European organizations in spending some grants. We managed to put it on Kickstarter. We still are looking at raising around now, and that's now is not necessarily the best time to do this, but it is what it is. And as I said, all of this kind of have interrelation, because of course with enough money you can have a much faster, let's say, creation of the team, or you can push stronger and create support and create network, or replace support or network if you throw money at the problem. But as we found out, things were quite clear at this separation. Even though, as I said, with more funding, we probably would have been able to grow faster and be further along, but still not having the team in the first place or not having support of the network would have been extremely difficult for us, coming from outside. So not coming from, let's say, a research organization or within a university and spinning something out. And that's about it as at this moment for as a presentation. But I'm happy to answer any question you guys might.
Thank you a lot, Marius. It's really interesting what you told us. We will now give the floor to Meritxell, but we'll be happy to take all the questions that you can have at the end of the next presentation. So Meritxell, the floor is yours.
Well, Sarah, so it's really a privilege to be here and share this session with Marius, no? Because each entrepreneurial journey is not better or worse, it's different. I think no, it's different when you start from an organization that when you start from different. So I think you learn from others a lot during this journey. So I love to share it with Marius. Okay, so I can now share my screen. Tell me if you can see it. Probably you can see it there.
Yes, we do.
I don't know if you see it in a full screen.
No, not yet.
Is it? Yeah. Yes, you can.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I'm Meritxell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Gate2Brain, that is a biotech based here in Barcelona that was created in July 2020. And I would like to share the first sentence, no, that you reach the sentence that you use during your journey of entrepreneurship. In your storytelling, you think about them a lot during the period. And the one that we end up using is this, no? Children represent a quarter of our present, but 100% of our future. And I sometimes add, if we don't decide to live 200 years, which I don't think it's an option. So it's a spin-off that it's based from the University of Barcelona, Sant Joan de Déu Pediatric Hospital, and IRB Barcelona, the three of them here in Barcelona. In fact, I was 15 years at IRB before the creation of the company. But just to explain the journey, I need to explain which is the problem we try to solve and what is the solution. So the problem is easy if you put some numbers, no? There are two great numbers. One is that 1 every 4 of us suffer from a brain disease during our life. I would say the good news is that there are drug candidates being developed at research centers, universities, small companies, big companies, for almost all of these brain diseases. But the problem or the bottleneck is that 98% of these drug candidates will fail reaching the brain. And if they don't reach the brain, they cannot cure the brain. And why they fail is because they don't cross something that we call it the blood-brain barrier that protects the brain. So we are really lucky that the blood-brain barrier exists because it protects the most precious organ in the human body, but it makes it very difficult when we need to treat it. And so this is the problem. It's a big problem for years and years. And there are different types of solutions that people are trying to do it. And what we create at Gate2Brain is a solution that it uses peptides that are very, very small proteins that act as shuttles that they go to the brain and carry drugs that they are not able to reach the brain alone. These drugs can range from small molecules to antibodies or nanoparticles. So these in 30 seconds are what is the problem, which is the solution. But then I prefer to explain it in another manner. No? Everything starts with a collaboration. As scientists, we love to collaborate. And during the 15 years I was at IRB, I collaborate with many people. In fact, I co-direct 10 PhD students. We published more than 50 articles around the Gate2Brain technology, 3 patents at that moment. But then we start to make some collaborations, trying to figure out where it really can have an impact. And very easily we find a collaboration with the Hospital Sant Joan de Déu. They had a great team. And especially we also detect an unmet medical need, a clear unmet medical need with an animal model from the patients. The patient's advocacy was really important in that case. And the opportunity, or I say the dream, that maybe one day we can see our technology translated into clinics. So we started working together in 2015. Then I think I participate in any program that it existed, the Essential Market, any program on this journey of creation of a company. Because I was more like a basic researcher. So I participate in the ADA maps, in Cash and Pool, like all the programs that were existing to really make that this jump will happen. And then we also, in March 2020, during the pandemic, we start to think about, okay, what we will do, which will be our mission. So really we create our company from the mission, from the sentence that it's beyond Gate2Brain, medicines beyond barriers, beyond the biological barriers, no? We have decided to jump the blood-brain barrier, but beyond other barriers, like the pediatric drug development, there are some barriers, but also somehow a dream that it's to jump the barriers to create that health could be for everyone, everywhere. And if you believe these 3 sentences, then you make a lot of decisions on the company based on these 3 sentences. Decisions of investment, decisions of intellectual property, many decisions are based on your mission. And I think it's important to devote time to that. But then why? No? From all the potential indications, we decided to go for pediatric brain tumors as the first indication where we will use the technology to help the transport of a chemotherapeutic agent to the brain. The unmet clinical need is clear from the beginning. Nobody has never doubt of that. But what this means, it means that it helps us to ask for the orphan designation that we are applying now. And I always say that then we have the option to have the access to the patient-derived animal models. And I always say this is a gift from the families. So the family contribution to make that science advances in all the fields. Having Sant Joan de Déu as co-founder, it helped us also to make that, okay, we need to make all the drug development, but there's a potential to have the clinical trial on the horizon of our entrepreneurial journey. So the idea was to create this idea, and we create G2B002. But it's not only the creation, you need to create all the IP. So if you remember, I said when we jumped from the academia, we had 3 patents, and nowadays we have 3 other patents. So we have 6 patents in Gate2Brain. With the effort that means to do them, to maintain them. And when we say about challenges of creation of a company, one of the challenges is the IP. You need IP to attract the investors, initial investors. IP is very important, but you need to maintain that intellectual property. Even you are not having revenues, but you need that for the long term. And you need to start to think about how you will create revenues. We don't create revenues. We don't sell anything. We are 5 years, or I would say 3 years from a clinical trial, and maybe 7 or 10 years from having a product in the market that someone benefits from a technology, some ourselves or by licensing the product, and someone is using our technology. And the most important, the creation of a team. You need to create a team that has expertise that it's very different from yours. So in fact, from when I leave my permanent position in July 2020, and when we create the company is not based on the people that was working in my lab. And then we move to the company, we create a new team of people so different as Sergi, that is the CFO, or people in business, or people in oncology, people in preclinical. And then you surround also about external advisors, I would say good friends around the world that wanted to create to help you on this idea. And then the more different they are, the better also. And you create also an extended family that has been people that has been collaborating with us in the Technion in Haifa, or Patil in India, which is helping us in controlling how we produce the peptide there, or people about the website and the image of Gate2Brain, or the CROs around Europe. So there's an extended family somehow. But then you need a lot of money to maintain all this extended family. And really, Gate2Brain has been very successful, I would say, in public funding. More than 3.5 million euros in the last 3.5 years. But we need also, we have the challenge still. We have an initial investment, but now we are facing we need to find the next tranche of investment from private investment, maybe family office, maybe VCs. This is where we are nowadays. So the capability, you need to create the capability to attract money sometimes is related to the image of the company or the brand of the company. You need to make effort to create also a brand, okay? That's what we have been doing during these 3 years also. So it's a journey. And then if I recapitulate, for me, the opportunity is great in pediatrics. It's known that the blood-brain barrier is more intact in kids, and this make a reasonable why to start pediatric first, no? We really devote to use the technology in a scenario where it's even more difficult to cross the blood-brain barrier. And then maybe one can take this technology to use it in a scenario for adults. But if we don't develop it for kids, it will never be able to cross the blood-brain barrier that it's in kids. You have some challenges that I love to say that are opportunities. You need to be able to attract the right talent worldwide. Some of them, it will be full-time, some of them will be part-time. I would say that even it's more difficult to attract the talent that it's part-time, because you try to go for someone that is excellent and encourage him or her to work very hard just part-time for your company, because you only need it part-time, but you need him because it's one of the best on that specific skill. And also, as I learned working in pediatrics, you need to make the effort, not always put in your storytelling that thing that, but it's a very small market. Pediatrics is not a small market. And if you ask the normal population, they will prioritize a lot the kids. So we need to start to believe on that. It's not such a small market in global. Remember, it's 25% of our actual population, 100% of our future population if we don't decide to live 200 years. And this is the story of Gate2Brain and the journey, and I will love to have any kind of question of this period. Thanks so much.
Many thanks, Mary-Jay, and many thanks to both of you to have shared with you your entrepreneurial journey in pediatrics and the drivers that makes you successful. So yeah, please, let's open the Q&A. If you have any question, don't hesitate to open your mic and just ask. So if there is no question, may I have a question a bit to both of you? I would like, what do you think are the main difference from a biotech and a medtech in pediatrics, if there is any? Like, do you think it's different to go to the children's market in this way or no?
I can try to answer.
Marius, let's make one thing. I try to think what I opinion about doing it in medtech, no? And you think what's your position that if it's easier to do it in a biotech, okay? For medtech, I would say that in pediatric, people say, but you can use the same devices, you can use the same things that in an adult, not very easily. And I'm sure that it's very, very different. And from here, you keep going on the answer.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, my first thing is that I don't really know much about what happens outside pediatrics. So from that point of view, I couldn't tell you necessarily whether or not it's what would be the difference. But as, let's say, more of an educated guess, well, one thing is that when you're looking at kids, and at least looking at the kids at pediatrics, the way that we started to look at it. So we decided that it's taking the whole biotech specific path and going through only preparing IP, preparing clinical trials, going through certification, then going to market. It was definitely an option, but it was such a long and costly option for us that we said that's not going to happen. So that's why our route has been going through non-medical device route. We qualify our device as a wellness device. We are avoiding saying anything about diagnose, because one thing that we are looking is to actually be using Tully as a diagnose tools. As
It's frozen, Marius?
Yeah, I think we lost Marius.
Yeah. Well, I can answer my part and maybe he recovers.
Perfect.
So from a biotech, what happens is sometimes I would say that biotech devoted to a pediatric indication, I would say in general, okay? Because it's not that our technology is only useful for pediatrics, but that you decide to go for that. I would say that sometimes it's a very narrow line that people, so the society, imagine that this is completely covered the needs of a kid. I'm sure that it's priority one in all health systems worldwide. And we need to push on that. Probably they also think that, oh, but there are a lot of donations. People donate a lot for kids, but we are not talking about donations, which is lovely. We are not talking about donations. We are talking about investment. And I donate and it's great. But people imagine that it's with these donations, everything is covered. And I don't think that the health of kids need to be based on donations. Not only that, there's a space for investment. So I think these are the two sounds that are on the background, no? Like, oh, there are a lot of donations. Oh, I donate a lot for pediatric wherever. That's important to change it on the society perspective.
Totally. Okay, thank you. I hope Marius will come back. Let's see if there is another question.
sorry, I think I got kicked off of the call for a couple of moments. I think you're on mute, Charlotte.
Sorry. Yes. Yes, Meritel, complete the answer for biotech when you were not here.
Yes. So let me say it again. So what I think it's one of the difference, at least for us, was the fact that on one hand you have a much stronger desire from potential user to see us succeed because we are working on offering something to the kids. On the other hand, also the level of trust that you need to build up is higher. So yes, Mary was absolutely right when she said that more or less you can use the same tech, but at least for us we had to develop our tech because there's no tech that was doing what we are trying to do. So there are a bunch of, when we started we said, yeah, we're gonna just get an off-the-shelf sensor and we're gonna use that to create something that can provide an intervention. We realized that there's no sensor that has the necessary complexity and the necessary focus in order to be able to track that. So we had to develop that. We started from the beginning at developing for children. So there are some complexity in the pediatric from that point of view. You have to have much more care about I don't know, confidentiality, about personal information, about whether or not this is something that can be used when they are going to school. There are a lot of regulations in different countries that permit or do not permit specific interaction. But yeah, I wouldn't say that for a med tech necessarily the kid device would be very different in pediatrics than in I don't know, in normal med tech.
Yeah. And Marius, just to share with you, in biotech, I think that in general, there's like false beliefs, no? Like one of the false beliefs is that, oh, I'm sure that there's a lot of money that people are donating a lot for kids' health. And this is true, but health of kids should not be only based on donations, if not in investments, okay? This is one thing. And the other false belief probably is that I think there's a general that people believe that kids don't get sick, and kids get sick from very small things on the everyday. No, kids also get sick, and we need to make new therapies for these complicated diseases. And this is one. I don't know if in medical devices it make it more difficult when it's physical hardware, that maybe you need to, kids grow, no? So you need to have different sizes and more variations than not in an adult. Probably there's some challenges for that, no?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that that's a lot of challenge. So it's more of adapting it a little bit to pediatrics. I mean, again, we are not talking about, and I'm not necessarily talking about something that's implantable, what that's to newborn babies. I'm sure that there are a lot more complexities because of just the sheer difference in size, but for us, we didn't see it. I mean, yes, we are focused on kids, but in the same time, we were able to use the device and try it on ourselves, for instance. So we didn't find a lot of challenges from that point of view, but there were differences from the way of the way things are. I don't know, the perspective to us.
Yeah, and as a community, I think that one of the challenges is to really transmit the idea that pediatrics in general is not a small market, because it's not. Because it's not based on numbers, no? Like people just has this belief, oh, it's a small market. Let's put numbers. And sometimes business can be in a small market, depend on the market. But I think it's something that is just pass by and saying that, but it doesn't contribute too much to help to the pediatric health, for sure not. But even I don't think it's based on real numbers.
Yep, totally. I agree.
Thank you. Does someone have a question?
So we've got a question in the chat. What motivated you to take the step of creating your startups or spin-off from your initial project or idea? You want to start, Marie?
Yes, I can start. So after the 15 years, 10 PhD students working on creating the seed of something, great contributors, patents, but then you say, okay, but there's a gap between that and that really having an impact. For me was how far away can we bring that, no? And I wanted, and this is one option, one thing, and then I wanted to see it in first person, which is a personal option, no? You can see it in first person or find who will be doing that adventure. And when I decided that I would love to find it in person, finding the right co-founders was important, and then making this jump from leaving the academic world to becoming that. And this transition, it takes 4 years or something like this, yes? Because if you make this decision, then you need to do an MBA probably. No, probably not sure. So you make this transition to the more business part. But I wanted to see that, how far it could reach.
For me, it was a bit different. as I said, I'm not coming from healthcare or from research. I'm coming from finance and strategy, and I have been working with startups quite a lot even before starting this journey. And the motivation on this space on mental health and children came from my co-founder and my wife, and we kind of realized that we have to see whether or not there's a way to use technology to help. So again, it was something more of a passion to help for her from the beginning, because as I said, she's a professor of economy. She's teaching investments and finance, and she started working with children with sensory integration disorders by more or less by accident. She decided to volunteer for the school where our daughter was in first grade, and she kind of somehow started to work with one of these children. So, and that led to an entire focus, an entire action towards helping these children in a pro bono way. And at one point, as I said, we were talking about her thesis, whether or not, and we were trying to figure out what kind of thesis she would have when she completed the master's degree in psychology. And I don't even remember how we realized that maybe there's a way to supplement these guys, because what we found out was that besides the therapy, besides counseling, besides medication, a very important role in helping these children was coming from specialized counselors that were in school and that were present with the children during the hours, during the classes when they were actually needed. But at the same time, it was obvious that these guys were too few and too expensive to be a real solution for everybody that needed. So we said, okay, let's. I mean, if a person can figure out when something is needed, maybe we can use technology to even if it's not fully replace that, at least give some sort of help there. And we did have a bunch of let's say concept changes. So initially what we were thinking was that we'll basically build some kind of a puppet that would be connected to the child through a wearable device, and that puppet would interact. And we gone through the discussion with psychologists, discussion with parents, discussion with children, and we gradually changed what we had into a device that provides a very discrete alert to the children and a stream of data to the therapist, to the psychologist. But this is not what was initially. And to answer the question, actually, I think it's passion to help. So we started out and we stayed with it in a more or less hobby state for the first couple of years until we managed to raise some funding, just because we knew that we can help there, and something that is worth it.
Thank you a lot. We have 3 other questions in the chat. So I will start with the first one, which is about clinical trials, which says, your project may not be at this point, but you find that clinical trials may be a problem. Regarding the need to carry them out, the requirements of medical agency, what strategy will you or do you follow to overcome this barrier as a startup?
So for us, it was clear we tried to come up with an initial version that does not need clinical trials. So the first one that's actually that was put on the market in the crowdfunding campaign, and we're hoping to bring in a full commercial launch as soon as possible. It's a wearable, it's a consumer electronic, and we are avoiding giving diagnosis. We are providing data, which is interesting and it's very helpful for the therapist, but we do not offer a diagnosis. We do not offer medical advice to the user, so we can we can put it out there. We can use it to further improve our device. We can use it to get data to improve the artificial intelligence algorithm, but we cannot we cannot offer it as a medical device. It's basically a tool for the psychologist. The clinical trials will be absolutely necessary because unless we are a medical device, we cannot offer this underneath a reimbursement scheme. We cannot offer it to people that cannot afford it. So the parents have to pay for it out of their own packets, and also it helps with the level of trust. So we had a lot of discussion with both parents and with psychologists saying, okay, the moment that you actually have proven results from clinical trials, we'll discuss. But for now, we are reluctant to do it. So we'll have to go through it. We are preparing for it. The main problem there is funding because they are very expensive. This is actually the first connection that we had with Senran, that there was in the fact that they will most likely be our partner in the clinical trials because of their position of as one of the top pediatric hospitals in Europe. But we still have to solve issues about funding before we can get there.
Well, in our case, as a therapy, there's no doubt that you need to go for clinical trials. So it's something from the very beginning, no? And then what I think I would say what it's important is to start a conversation, even if it seems at the horizon and it's not, to start the conversations with the agencies very early to draw those clinical trials, no? To make the sketch of those. Never it's too early to start these conversations, but it's obvious that you need these clinical trials in pediatric therapy.
Okay, thank you. There is another question, which is how do you see Europe as compared to US or other markets in terms of pediatric innovation? Any suggestion for innovators in Europe?
I'm a big critic, okay? I think that there are differences. Obviously, there are differences everywhere, no? As when you compare two things, you always try to figure out which are the difference. But the difference, normally some are better, something are worse, no? So I think that we also making a development in the States will be great, but you need to find the right moment to approach the FDA and jump for this, maybe in the next phase of the clinical trial. Because also developing something in the States is much, much expensive. It's true that the investments, sometimes they have an extra zero, no, but you need to figure out doing at the right moment. What for me it's missing is more connections, and probably iForKids is one of the tools, more connections between the different countries and different hospitals and different stakeholders in pediatrics in Europe, so act more like a global network, and then it will be very comparable.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So I also see the possibilities of pediatric innovation as maybe a little bit surprisingly larger and bigger in Europe than in the US because it costs much more there, and the focus in the US is much more on the very fast return. So yeah, you have a lot of innovation. You have a lot of innovation in healthcare also, but most of it comes actually out of University of Research spin-offs, which is great, but it's not. And I haven't seen a lot of focus on pediatric in that space. So that's why maybe it's a little bit behind. And also when you're looking at specific let's say startup initiatives that go towards pediatric innovation, I think it's harder to do it. It would be harder to do it in the US than in Europe. There are differences again, as you correctly noticed, between different regions in Europe. So for us, it would have been easier and faster to if we were in Barcelona. Probably it would have been at least a couple of years faster because of the fact that the ecosystem is much more developed there than in Central and Eastern Europe. But I don't know, the entire connections are really good. We are not yet at the level where we could compare the two situations in Europe and in the US from the perspective of what happens when you go from one country to the other. So from a theoretical perspective, I think at that point Europe would be a little bit behind US. So in US, once you get an FDA approval, you're free to play on the entire market. Here we will have to go more or less country by country to do it, and there are differences, important differences between those. So again, at that point, probably at the further end, at actually the distribution part, I think there are parts that can be improved, even when comparing to the US, to the situation.
Thank you. Just some last questions, which is for you, Marcus. It says, if I understood correctly, you mentioned the product, it was classified as wellness products. I understand in order to reach the market earlier. How did people see this, especially the people who had to invest money in the project to consider buying it?
Well, that's one of the challenges, the big challenges with funding, because when you're looking at specialty, it's a way where we almost fall between cracks, because on one hand you have specialty investors that are specialized in medtech, in digital health, in something like that, and for them it's all about IP track towards clinical trials and whatnot, and we are a little bit off from that. And in the same time, when we're looking at let's say regular investors, the fact that this goes towards clinical trials and it means a long time to market, it can be a little bit scary for them. So it's not necessarily the best situation to position ourselves like that, because we have to explain stuff to investors on either side. In the same time, as I said, if we were able to raise, I don't know, let's say a couple of million euros to just go through clinical trials and develop the product without touching the market at all, probably would have done it. But we did our best with the hand that was there. So yeah, I don't know how to say better than that.
Thank you a lot for your input. I think it has been really clear. Well, I think we can close the session for today. So I would like to give a huge thanks to Mary-Chelle and Marius for their time, their inputs, and sharing with us this incredible adventure that you are living. So wish you a lot of good luck in the future, and also for the audience for their participation. So just for you to know, so we will have our third training in February. And if you want to stay up to date to the i4Kids news, we have the LinkedIn page that will be sent in the chat, and also the innovators community if you want to see up to date to all the news that are happening. So with that, thank you a lot. I wish you to all a really good day and hope to see you soon in other i4Kids activities.
Thanks a lot to all.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.